pretty known in nationalist circles and far-right circles, right?
Yeah, he was. He was. I mean, he was kind of gaining his own little famedom here and there. And after Charlottesville, I think people started, recognizing his face. I mean, they put his picture on some articles online and stuff like that.
Okay. And did you meet him? Did you meet him after Charlottesville, or were you guys already dating at that time?
Well, like, we actually met maybe, 3 days before he went to Charlottesville. So I started hanging out with him just right before he left.
Okay. And now it's been alleged, I guess you discussed a little bit, that pretty quickly the relationship started to sour a bit, and that he might have started displaying signs of being somewhat abusive.
Yeah, and, the thing is that I'm not sure if many people know this or not. I mean, if you Google his name, you can actually find it, and that's how I found out. He, back in 2009, was charged with aggravated kidnapping, and spent 6 years in prison because of it. Oh. And so he got out, 2 years ago or something like that, and he didn't tell me. He never told me. There were tons of red flags, and I just kind of was blind to them for a long time, and it just started getting worse and worse. He showed signs of being very narcissistic, self-centered, and just flat out abusive. I mean, it never really got physical, but it was escalating clearly. I mean, I was leaving for the door by the time the incident occurred in early October.
I believe he's the gentleman on the right.
Okay,
I
cool.
believe he's the gentleman. Sorry, we pulled up the no. I'm sorry. He is the middle one.
Middle
guy.
Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, we have.
Well, at least you were dating a handsome white nationalist.
Well, no, look, nobody's denying that there's some pretty good looking, boys over on the far right. I mean, let's be real. I mean, no homo, but now you had Vice and BuzzFeed kind of chasing you around. But you pretty much could tell right off the jump that they were going to turn this into all right-wing guys beat their women.
Was it their fedoras?
Right? Yeah.
Tipping their fedora at you and being like, "Milady, let's make fun of these Nazis." But to be fair, guys, and before we get into kind of how bad it got with this guy, these guys that are very controlling and narcissistic, psychopathic, yeah, it's not like an exclusively right-wing or an exclusively left-wing thing. However, these authoritarian movements on all sides do tend to attract power-hungry psychopaths like a moth to flame. So it's, there are a lot of good guys out there, but at the same time, these are exactly the sort of places where you would end up finding a guy like this who is sort of controlling and wants to build a cult of personality and kind of, I do think that the Antifa and the alt-right are both rife with sociopaths. Yes. That we sort of need to start self-policing and, kind of, smoking them out, so to speak.
He hits me across the face. I was an open hand hit, but, dude, he knocked me across the face. I, stood up and I was like, oh my God, get the fuck out. I don't want to fucking deal with this. And, I go to, the front door because I'm, thinking I'm going to just, walk him out or something. And I think I'm insinuating I want to call the police. And he takes it, way past, any kind of normal reaction, just hitting a girl. And he throws me on the ground. And I was, trying to put up a fight, but at a certain point I was like, okay, this is pointless. Just, I can't do anything about it. He's stronger than me. And he sits on my chest and, pins my arms under his knees. And he's got his hand over my mouth and, his hand on my neck. And he's choking me. And he goes on, this dialogue of, oh, I'm going to have to kill you now.
And we're talking specifically about William Fears. He's 30 years old. How old were you? And, this was just a couple months ago. So, how old were you?
Yeah. I'm 22.
Yeah, you're a kid.
Yeah.
You're a baby.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, it's no offense or anything. I'm
just
saying you're a young girl.
Yeah.
You're not, you know what I mean? You hear about this thing happening to fucking 40-year-old truck stop hookers, and you're like, well, you know, the 40-year-old truck stop hooker, you know, things happen. It's a life you chose, but this is sort of terrifying for sort of a small town relationship type thing. Do you think that he might have been? Do you think that he might have started getting? Obviously, the whole being a crazy psycho and being a white nationalist are not. You know, one and the same thing. I mean, there are people that aren't both.
Right.
But do you think that he might have been sort of attracted to this when he went to jail the first time? Because I mean, I've been to jail before. You gotta, you know, you gotta union up. You know, I'm just saying, you gotta pick your team.
Right.
Even casually, that you gotta choose somebody to sit down and eat with. And generally it's going to be white dudes. It's your first. So, I mean, do you think that maybe did he, I mean, you didn't know him back in the day, but is there anybody that knows him say that he was ever like this before he went to jail?
I mean, he actually told me that he was like Antifa before he went to prison. Like, he was, you know, liberal and progressive as a teenager, yada, yada. And then I kind of guess, like, evolved into a libertarian. But after he went to prison, I mean, he said that just totally opened his eyes to, like, racial identity, you know what I mean? Like,
shockingly, we have a lot of female listeners on this show. I don't know why.
You're telling me.
It's really inexplicable, but we do have a lot of female listeners. So, I mean, and I'm sure some of them, I mean, a lot of them are your age. What would you say to them if they're maybe in a situation before you got all the way to your, you know, the bad end with this William Fear guy? Were there any warning signs? Was there any indicators that maybe you could tell other young ladies out there to maybe keep an eye out for, so this doesn't happen to them?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd say that girls my age are, you know, pulling the whole, like, trad girl, you know, I'm a white nationalist, like, national socialist, whatever, you know, if you're out there online, or even in, I mean, it's mainly online, but if you're kind of like going through that route and you're, you know, taking interest in white nationalist guys, I mean, they aren't like exempt from like the problems that like every other, you know, population has. And when you see a red flag, like, okay, they've been to prison, they have like prior felonies, they've, you know, literally done things. Just keep in mind, nobody really changes. I mean, as much as they like want to, you know, parade around like, oh, you know, I've changed, I've learned something from it, yada yada. Instinctively, like, they go back to what, you know, they feel comfortable doing, and like typically, you know, people like that, he's insecure, he's losing control of the situation. I mean, he's going to resort to what he knows best, and that's like, you know, freaking out, assaulting someone, acting emotionally. And people just, I mean, they don't change. Like, if you find out something on somebody's past, don't take it with a grain of salt. Like, and that's an indicator of the future.